Hey guys, I think we will go ahead and start now that I got the okay from Dara there. Maybe before I introduce myself, just real quick, could everyone just please turn off your mics and mute yourself? And if you have any questions, Dara will be monitoring the chat for us. So just please type your questions in there and make sure she can read them. And yeah, without any further ado, my name is Rory, and I'm a contractor working for the USAID GIS Center, and I am the activity manager for the YouthMappers project for the USAID GIS Center. I just started 2 weeks before I had to work remotely, so I'm pretty new in this position. If anyone remembers or knows Chad Blevins, I'm kind of taking over his role for the YouthMappers project. So maybe just a little bit about myself. Besides open geospatial data and mapping, I enjoy bird watching, biking, brewing beer, and cooking. So please send me on Twitter or by other means any cool birds you've seen, any cool biking adventures you've been on, any cool beers you've been drinking, or any delicious dishes you've made while you've had the time self-isolating or being under quarantine. Yeah, I just would really like to get to know everyone, and I'm here to chat. So let me pull up my presentation. Give me 1 second to share my screen. And hopefully everyone can see it. And I'm gonna go full screen. Cool. So today we're going to talk about going beyond the OSM tasking manager and the editors, at least the two that I use mostly, which are JOSM and the ID editor. So I already talked a little bit who I am, and I just mentioned what we're going to talk about, but why should we care? That's a good question. Well, OSM is a ecosystem of different tools and users and communities, and there's a lot of different ways to add geospatial data to the map. The one that YouthMappers are probably most familiar with are, like I said, ID and JOSM, but there's a lot of other ways to get data onto the map and also to kind of validate and monitor what data is in the map. So that's why I chose these two different tools to talk about. And to just be clear, I'm just going to give an intro to these tools. I'm not going to cover every little thing possible because I think the best way to learn about them is to just get your hands dirty and to start working on them and using them yourselves. But I want to get you started and comfortable enough to feel like you do have the tools to get started working on these different websites. I've already mentioned some of these different tools. So let's get started. I'm going to pronounce it OSMCHa. That's because that's what it sounded like when I read it for the first time. But I don't know what it's really pronounced. So if you have a better pronunciation, let me know. So OSMCHa is basically the OpenStreetMap Changeset Analyzer. And it can really be used for kind of going an extra level into validation and kind of monitoring change sets around the world. It was created by this guy, Willie Marcel, in 2015. But the site we're going to use, the version of it we're going to use, is now hosted by Mapbox, and they kind of are running the maintenance of it, at least the free public-facing one of it. So why should we care about OSMCHa? Well, it offers really cool and advanced filtering options to see different OpenStreetMap change sets. This is really helpful for validating changes to OpenStreetMap, which is a very stringent community requirement. We have to make sure that the data going in is of high quality. And with about 30,000 change sets on a daily basis in OpenStreetMap, it can be kind of hard to filter through all of them to find out the ones that are important to you or the ones that you're responsible for making sure that are of high quality. It's a really good way to monitor new users or ones that are committing active vandalism even though acts of vandalism are very rare in OpenStreetMap, we want to make sure that there's no problems, and it's just a way to help provide that extra level of safety and quality. I know that's one of the, even though there is such low levels of vandalism in OpenStreetMap, people who maybe have some geographic background but aren't familiar with OpenStreetMap in particular, for me, that's one of the questions I get a lot. Well, if it's so open, wouldn't there just be lots of acts of vandalism? And the response I always give is no, because people who have contributed data care so much about it, and they want to ensure that it is of a high quality and not being vandalized. Cool. So if you want to follow along, please navigate to osmcha.org, and please sign in with your OSM user account. And once you're there, you will find a very basic front page layout that looks something like this, with a sidebar to the left and a main kind of mapping screen to the right. Sorry, I'm just catching up with my notes for a second. Yeah. And then if you, I'll do a demo in a second, but if you select one of these change sets that are listed on the left, it'll display some basic information, which we can already see. The name of the user who committed the change set, the change set comment that was added, some important flags that OSMCHa automatically adds. One example of a flag that it adds is if the username is a new user or not. So you can maybe provide an extra level of validation to them. And then there's these three boxes of different colors, blue, orange, and red. Blue being the number of new features added, orange being the numbers of features that have already been in OpenStreetMap but have been changed, and the red ones being the number of features that have been deleted. So you can kind of get a general idea of the change set that's been done just by looking at the basic information on this page. So let me actually go into OSMCHa and show you guys how it works. Cool. So I'm going to sign in with my OSM user account. I'm going to grant it access. And you'll see the screen I just described to you guys. I'm just going to select the first one that I see. Hopefully, Joss Mogan isn't on the call today because I don't want to call anyone out. After clicking on the change set, you can see that it will zoom into it on the map and highlight the changes that have been added. We're also given basic information about the change set up here, the username, how many edits they've done, when the change set was created, the comment that was associated with the change set, and it even gives you the ability to translate it in case it's done in a different language. Then at the bottom, you see some basic information, the editor used, so this was done in JOSM. The source, it was from the Survey Cadastre, and the imagery wasn't reported. As I was building, working on this training for you guys, I did notice that a lot of the times imagery wasn't displayed, but sometimes it was, and sometimes it was in the source place. So it might be just an error, or it might be just depends on the different tasking managers, how they're reported. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that for you guys. So just scrolling down to see a few of the different types of changes that have been done, seeing that there's different sources and different imageries and different change set comments. Another thing we can do is click on the change set number up here, because each change set has a unique number, and this will open it up in OpenStreetMap itself. In case you wanted to inspect it there, it'll list all the nodes that have been added and changed, et cetera, et cetera. However, if we've noticed a error, so let's look at this person, Kuba 1999. I'm not saying there's going to be an error, but it does ask for a review requested and that the person is a new mapper. We can open this up with our editor of choice. So let's go ahead and do it in ID for simplicity's sake. And let's give it a second to load. And let's zoom into edit. And we can see that field that was added. I'm just going to switch back. Looks like that's the field. And we can inspect and make sure that everything's okay. So selecting the feature itself, we can review all the tags just as we would do for validating any other project. It has a name. It lists all the sports. Interesting that table tennis. I guess I trust them that there's a table tennis court table there. And it lists all the different surface areas and stuff. So it looks pretty good actually. So I'm not going to make any changes. But just wanted to show you guys that that's one way to look at edits and to help validate different projects there. So that's just the basic functionality of OSMCHa. You can always refresh the change sets up here to see what's the newest and latest and greatest. You can also go over to filters and do some interesting work here. Since you guys are YouthMappers members, let's see all of the YouthMappers edits, at least the edits that have the hashtag YouthMappers attached to it for this month. So let's start with April 1st. And in the comment, let's put YouthMappers. And I'm going to click apply. And it should bring back all of the YouthMappers edits that have happened anywhere in the world in April. And it looks like there are 3,617 edits. Wow, that's a lot. And some pretty cool usernames as well as I sift through these. It looks like a lot of them have come from like the Hot Tasking Manager. This one, they used the Rapid ID editor, and they used Facebook's Map with AI tool to make the edits. And just to do a quick look, man, those are some nice square buildings. It looks like a really detailed job. So good job, Tommy G.D. Charles, who did this 15 minutes ago. Maybe they should have been on this call though, instead of making OSM edits. Or maybe they're listening and making edits at the same time. So that's just one type of filter we can do. Another filter we can do is maybe let's see the first time that I made a edit to OpenStreetMap. So I think I joined OpenStreetMap in 2011 or something like that. And I'm going to keep the YouthMappers hashtag because I want to see what was the first YouthMappers edit I ever made, because I made a lot of edits that were before YouthMappers. Then I can go down to usernames, and I can just type my username in. Very original, first and last name. Whoop. Oh, I guess we have to click add to users. There I am. And I'm going to apply. So you can see I made a YouthMappers edit 18 days ago, but also my first one was 3 years ago. So I don't know, I feel like I've been a YouthMapper for a pretty long time. At least been supporting YouthMappers projects. Wow, that's a really big edit right there. Let's see, actually let's look at the first one I did. So it was a PEPFAR project with MapGive for OSM GeoWeek in 2016. And whoa, I edited a big road. I wonder where it is. In Tanzania. Super cool. So that's just one thing you can do to filter YouthMappers edits by looking at the hashtag and looking at your own by entering your username. Another thing you could do with this, for example, is if you had a list of all of your YouthMappers chapters users, you can enter a series of usernames in the user section box and track all of their edits and help monitor and edit the work they're doing. And as I said earlier, this could be very useful for new mappers to make sure that they're doing quality edits and maintaining the high level of edits that youth mappers are known for around the world. There's a bunch of other filtering fields that you can use, source being one of them. So one project that we've asked youth mappers to help with is the healthsites.io website, which adds health facility data to OpenStreetMap through their website. And so if any data has been added through healthsites.io, it'll be tagged as healthsites.io in the, oops, sorry, not in the source, but in the editor. So let me move that down there. And I am going to remove some of my other filters, and let's see all the changes that have been added. It might just be with my name on it too. I think I forgot to remove my name, but we can check my edits that I've done through healthsites.io and see, oh, no, this is everyone, good. Yeah, so we can see here all the edits that have been done through healththoughts.io. And this guy used the hashtag YouthMappers, which is awesome, super exciting, to add data to help out with the COVID-19 response. Awesome, I'm so proud of you guys. Because I checked this last week and there wasn't that many, so it's really nice to see that there's been so many new youth mappers edits using healthsites.io. So please pat yourself on the back. Cool. Like I said, there's a bunch of filters in there. I'm not going to go over all of them, but it'd be interesting to hear from you guys for a little bit. We can have a little bit of discussion. I know there's a lot of people on the call, but I'll stop here for now to take questions, and maybe we can discuss a little bit how you guys would use OSMCHa at your Youth Mappers chapter.
This is Dara. If you all will just remember to unmute yourself, and if you're not able to do that, you can make a comment in the chat and I will unmute you.
And if you're not talking, please stay muted. Sorry, I wasn't able to hear that. Isaac, Kofi.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I am Isaac from UW YouthMappers Ghana.
Welcome.
Please, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
So basically, from the presentation, the OSMCHa, is it basically used for filtering, or it can also be used for edits as well?
Great question. So it's mostly for monitoring Changesets, but as I showed, you can. There's a field in there. Let me share my screen again. If you select a edit, you can say open with, and then you can choose ID or JOSM or any of these other editors to make the edits in. So you don't do the edits directly in OSMCHa, but it will pull that change set and only the features in that change set for you up in OpenStreetMap. Well, I guess it'll bring in everything in OpenStreetMap, but it will zoom into the edits that were made. So we can see here that this edit was made here, and we can find it on here and make the changes we need to it, either adding to it, deleting it, or fixing it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you for the
question.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah, so maybe Isaac, I can ask you while I have you on, how would you use this tool for your Youth Mappers chapter in Ghana?
Okay. We use it to monitor the changes we've been making to the map. So as you rightly said, we use to monitor changes and also do edits as well. So I think it's a great tool that can be used. So as time goes on, we can use it to monitor the changes we've been making to the map. So I think it's great. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I would suggest that you use it to monitor the students who are in your chapter to see and making sure that they're doing good edits, and to maybe monitor the areas that that you guys are interested in to see who else is editing the map, so you can coordinate with them as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Rory, this is Dara. We have a question from Janet Chapman, and she's asking if there's a way to filter only for new mappers.
That's a good question. I don't know. Let's take a quick look. Let me share my screen again. Maybe I should just leave it on sharing. Maybe there's a tag. User, trusted user, watch list users, mapping team, hide mapping teams, hide verified mappers. Not that way. Nope, I don't think there is, but I will double check and get back to you on that. That's a great question, though.
And I think in reference to that, Janet's also having problems selecting all the Changesets for Tanzania only. So could you review that again?
All the Changesets for Tanzania?
Mm-hmm.
So what I would do is do Tanzania in the location part of the filter page. I think selecting all of them will be a lot and be very big. So let's just see what's been done this month, just to keep it small for demonstration purposes. And I just want to make sure I'm going to remove health sites. And let's click apply. It might take a while because it's a really big area, but that's how I would do it to start. Oh, there we go. 5,000 Changesets, over 5,000 Changesets this month. Cool, and that's a good way maybe to, if you're looking for tasks to work on, do in your country or even a smaller area, maybe your province or your state or your city, and look for ones that request review, and you can help validate if you feel comfortable validating.
And we have another question from Mirgio, sorry. Is there the same limit of download size like usual in JOSM, or does it coming from OSMCHa allow larger downloads?
So you're not necessarily downloading the data sets from here. It's just displaying the Changesets. So I haven't reached the limit yet, but I haven't tried to test it yet as far as number of Changesets that it'll load. But one other nice thing, though, is you can save the filter that you have. Tanzania, April. So you can keep coming back to it and refreshing that filter, so you don't have to do it new every time. And you just go to My Filters, and you can pull it up that way. Yeah, sorry for not being able to answer that question specifically so well, because, yeah, like I said, just to review, you're not downloading the data necessarily through this website, you're just visualizing it.
And we have another question from Jonathan asking if it's possible to upload to OSM all the province roads that he surveyed from last 2011 by Trimble Junio or Junio SC.
Yeah, so imports are a whole different can of worms for OpenStreetMap. I would be very cautious about doing that, especially if it's a large network of roads. I would first make sure that it's okay, that you have the licensing permission to do that. And then I would reach out to users in that community to see if that would be a useful task for them to help you out with, because it's not something that one person can do on their own. And there's a lot of debate within the OSM community about the efficacy of doing large imports. Some people are very for it, and other people think it's not in the spirit of OSM. And so just doing it right and making sure you take into consideration people who might have added roads on their own through digitizing it with ID editor, who might be kind of a little upset that someone came and overrid their features that they created. So I don't want to scare you away from it, but it's something that maybe we could talk about more offline and just make sure we do it the right way. And we are working in a community with OSM, and so we got to make sure everyone's happy and working together.
And we have another question of, is it possible to export each instance of Changesets?
Yes, not through OSMCHa. I would use a different tool like Overpass Turbo, which can be the subject of another one of these virtual trainings if people are interested. But you would be able to get the Changeset ID and take that into Overpass Turbo to export it. And I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but that's just the way I'm familiar with. Cool. Are there any other questions?
Yes, there's one more of, if you validate, does it go directly to OSM or OSMCHa?
Well, remember, validating doesn't happen in OSMCHa. It happens in one of the one of the editors that you selected to open the Changeset with. A lot of people consider that validation cannot really occur in ID, although that's changing with the new functionality that's been added to ID. Most people used to say that you can only truly validate in JOSM because of all the advanced tools it had. But if you're editing a small amount of changes, like a single change set, and you're a comfortable, experienced mapper, then I would say it's probably okay to use it in ID. But if you get in trouble, don't blame me. And so that all happens in ID editor, which edits OpenStreetMap directly, or in JOSM, which edits OpenStreetMap directly. It does not go through OSMCHa. OSMCHa is just a way to find these things on OpenStreetMap, right? It's not a separate kind of software or tool. It's just a website that helps filter OpenStreetMap. So maybe I'll take a little bit of a step back there because it kind of reminded me of this, that a lot of people think OpenStreetMap is a map, but for me, it's more of a database. And the map is one of the visualizations of the data in that database, in that geospatial database. And OSMCHa is just another way to visualize and to filter and see the data in that database. So we're used to maybe going to openstreetmap.org and filtering based on zooming into a place, panning around the map. This is more of a structured way to do that, where you kind of enter in different filters to find the area and features you're interested in looking at, instead of just using the map to search and find them based on attributes.
And we have another question.
Cool. I think
Lydia.
Cool. I think this will be the last one before we move on to the next tool, just so we have enough time for both.
So she asked if you can show a bit more about if there's something we need to fix it, save it, and could we see before and after documentation or something that we've done?
So could you repeat the question actually? Sorry.
Yes. So she was asking if you could elaborate more on if there's something we need to fix or save, and if we could see before and after documentation or something that we've done.
Yeah, so there's no kind of before and after visualization in this tool, although if I remember correctly, I think it's Arkabi. This is a different editor, which I am not as familiar with, so don't ask me too much about it. I think I pulled up a bad example, but I think this will show you the changes, the before and after changes. Let's see if there's one with, let's look at this one in Arkabi. I haven't, like I said, I haven't explored this nearly enough, but I think it will show you kind of like what the road looked like before and after the change. But I can't promise that. But I would suggest, you know, to consider the time, you explore Archivy a little bit more, if that's what you're interested in. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, sorry if I didn't answer your questions perfectly, but I really appreciate that everyone's been asking them. And let's talk more. Let's follow up, and let's help you. I'd love to help every one of you with kind of the different use cases you're considering for OSMCHa and the different types of ways you want to use it. Or if you just have problems in general and you don't know that OSMCHa is the right tool, let's brainstorm ways to find out how to solve your problems. Okay, with that said, I'm going to move on to our next tool, which is, wait for it, MapRoulette. Hopefully some of you know about MapRoulette, and much like OSMCHa, I'm not going to go into all the details on it, but I will try to give you guys an introduction and an overview so you guys can start using it and learning it and become better at it than I am. So what is MapRoulette? It is a micro-task platform for OpenStreetMap, and it gives you really small and easy to edit map tasks, so you can quickly and easily improve and validate OpenStreetMap. It's kind of structured as such. You have a project, then under each project you have different challenges you can run, and then under each challenge you have different small tasks for users to complete. So for example, if we have a YouthMappers project or a YouthMappers George Washington University project, we can have different challenges under there, usually under a common theme, like add hospitals, fix roads with sharp turns, or add language attributes to the names of different features, things like that. And from building that, we'll see individual tasks that are brought up based on what the organizer of the project has put in there. And so I mentioned a little bit about the different users through describing how it was structured, the platform. So there's three general types of users. There's kind of super user admins who can do a lot of stuff in the back end and fix things like that. There's project managers who kind of create and manage the projects. And then there's mappers and reviewers who are completing the tasks and reviewing the tasks. So if you want to follow along, like with OSMCHa, please go to maproulette.org and like OSMCHa, sign in with your OSM username. And to get started, I usually go to Find Challenges, and that'll display a map that we'll see in just a second. Oh, map. Hopefully I'm already logged in, so we don't have to waste your time. I'm just going to exit out of these. Cool. So I'm going to go to Find Challenges. And here I'm going to show you just how to complete a challenge. I'm not going to go into the details of creating a challenge. We'll save that for the next iteration of this talk if people are interested. So you can see a list of different challenges that are open to the public. They can be public or private. So if you want to just have challenges just for your students, part of a YouthMappers chapter, you can make those challenges private. Maybe you don't want people from the US who don't speak a local language adding language attributes to an area to make sure that it's available, you know, the names of these places are available in lots of different languages. So I'm just going to choose one, fix parking lots in Toronto. And you can see it brings up the task itself and some basic information, how many have been fixed, how many have been skipped, how many have already been fixed, how many were too hard, and how many weren't a problem in the first place. And you can track the status and overall progress of the challenge with this bar over here. So let's click start. And we can see it pulls up a location in OpenStreetMap. And let's read the instructions, because one thing I like to do is not read the instructions, even though that's the most important thing you can do in any of these projects. So change parking type to either parking equals surface lot, which is the most common, or parking equals multi-story, so like a parking garage, which has multiple floors of parking, or parking equals underground for underground car park. Okay, that seems pretty simple. But zooming into this feature, it defaults to the OpenStreetMap base map, but I would probably want to view it in one of our imagery layers. So I'm going to go to Esri World Imagery Clarity, because I know that one is pretty good. Whoop, doesn't like my internet. And we can see that there kind of is a parking lot near here. Let's check in Bing to compare. I wonder if they mean the one over here, the one to the south of it. You know what? I'm going to skip that one because I'm not too sure. And even if you skip a task, it asks you to enter a comment, so other people who look at it can see why someone skipped. So I'm going to say, hard to tell if the location is a parking lot, and submit. And then it pulls up another task. So this one, even though it's in a shadow, it's much more clear to me that this is a parking lot, and it's parking equals surface. So I just want to check in OpenStreetMap standard. And it looks like it's labeled as a parking lot. And let's click edit so we can see it in ID editor, I believe. That's what it pulls up. And give it a second to load the data. There we go. And parking lot, amenity equals parking lot. But we need to add, according to the instructions, parking equals surface. So parking surface. So we just added a new tag to this parking lot that wasn't there before. And we can click save. And look at that. It automatically imports the changeset comment from MapRoulette. So I don't need to add anything in addition, but feel free to do it if you'd like to provide more details. And I'm going to click upload. And we're going to go back here and say, I fixed it. And mention added the tag for parking equals surface. And submit. You're also allowed to check the box here if you're uncomfortable with what you did and you would like someone to review it, the checkbox there. But I'm pretty confident that I did the right thing, so I'm going to click submit. And it automatically brings up another task. So you can see this is a pretty easy way to do small fixes. And it's nice because it's very contained. It's not very open-ended. When we use like the hot tasking manager, for example, you're given an area to map and you're given a large set of instructions of what to map. But this is a nice way if you have specific things you want fixed to use this tool to do those in a very small distributed way. So you can kind of think of it like this as a different tasking manager for different types of projects. And so once I open the floor back up to questions, it'd be nice to hear, again, how you as YouthMappers would use this tool for different projects you're working on or different areas you'd like to get mapped, or how would you use it to improve the map in your communities. Should I do one more task, a different task to see if it's any different? I think so. So we did fix parking lots. Let's do find a good one. Emergency hospitals with helipad. Okay, impact on mortality and morbidity among patients with major trauma is decreased if transportation to a major trauma center is immediate. So in an effort to identify major trauma centers across the world, those with a helipad first need to be identified. Okay, so they're looking for hospitals with helicopter pads. So I'm going to click start. And I'm going to check this area to see if there's a helipad. I don't see one on the map there. So let's check with our satellite imagery. And it gives us the tag arrowway equals helipad. Oop. Yeah, I don't see one. Let's just check one more image to be extra safe. Satellite imagery. Nope. I'm going to say not an issue. No helipad for this hospital. And let's submit. Let's do one more. Well, this is tagged a hospital. That's why it came up. I'm going to say skip because it's hard for me without knowing what area this is. And Bengaluru, guessing in India. Yep. I don't know if this is actually a hospital or not, and I don't see a helipad, so I'm going to say skip and say I am not sure that this is a hospital and submit. And I'll leave it at that, so I leave the floor open for questions. And just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think I did. Well, yeah, it also tracks how many points you have. You can click My Points for more information. There's a leaderboard. You can break it down by countries and whatnot. And if you do want to create a challenge, I believe you go to Create and Manage. And I'm not going to walk through you guys the whole process. But you would create a new project here. I created a test challenge and a test project here. So you can create the project, which you can add a challenge to, and it walks you through the steps to create a specific challenge there. But like I said, we'll save that for another training because we're running out of time, and I want to make sure we have time for feedback and questions. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Dara to see if there's any questions.
Right now, we don't have any questions in the chat. I believe that's Isaac talking. Isaac, we didn't hear that. Can you repeat it?
Yes, please, with a MapRoulette, it means that it can be used to add maybe basic information that is missing from the map and also adding creating projects. Hello?
Yeah, I think you might have dropped off at the end, but I think I got the gist of your question, which is, yeah, it's a way to add data to the map. Again, kind of like OSMCHa, you don't add it through MapRoulette, but it helps you find the different things to add based on the project, and then you edit it in ID editor with MapRoulette. So like the two examples I saw was to add the tags for to improve parking lots in Toronto by adding the appropriate tags to them. And the second one was to look at hospitals to see if they have landing places for helicopters and to add the tag for helicopters to them. And so those are just two different examples, but it can be really anything you want. So there's another one I saw on there that was about adding, improving the road geometry. So it would look for turns if they're too sharp to actually be like that, for you to add some more nodes to smooth them out and make them a more accurate road. So it's just a way to have users add specific data to the map based on things you're interested in. So maybe in your community, there's a lot of road data already, but the names of the streets aren't on OpenStreetMap. So you can find all of the roads that don't have names and add, ask users to use their local knowledge to add the name of the road to the map. Thanks for your question, Isaac.
And we have a kind of similar question. Oh, sorry, Isaac, go ahead. Okay, I'll follow up with this question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, there's a question in the chat of, I'm just gonna ask it and then Rory can choose whichever one you want to answer. Ask, if you don't know the area well, is it possible to validate it?
Yeah, so if it all depends on what you're validating, right? If the task is asking for the name of the hospital, for example, and you don't know the area locally, then I wouldn't validate it that way. If it's asking you to validate if there's a helipad that's visible, that's something you can do with satellite imagery. So I think that's a good use case where you can validate remotely, even if you've never been there or don't have local knowledge of the place. Also with the Toronto example, we can see the garage with satellite imagery. So I think it's safe to validate it through that. But if you're unsure, because the one task might have some places you're able to validate and some that you're not. So you can always skip it. So don't feel embarrassed to skip. I do it all the time. You saw me do it earlier today. I only add data when I'm highly confident. I don't have to be 100% confident, but I'd say 80 to 90% confident. I would go ahead and add the data. Cool. If there's not any other questions, does anyone have ideas about how they would use this for their OpenStreetMap chapter?
We have a question asking if there's anything about WMS and WFS service.
I want to share my idea about.
So I'll answer the question about WFS and WMS. I'm not sure about that for MapRoulette. I do know it has a fully functional API that you can connect to and use it to build into whatever project you're working on. So it's really robust and open, and I suggest you check it out. I'll be providing my slides to everyone after this, and it'll have some additional slides that you didn't see today with links to further resources for each tool. And I know MapRoulette has a really nice wiki with a lot of details on there. So it's really well maintained, both these tools. And so they have a lot more details than I provided today that you guys can use to help learn more about it and answer any questions you might have while you're using it.
And how we can use this in Web Gis field?
Thanks for the question. If I understood it correctly, is how can we use this tool in a Web GIS?
Yes.
And yeah, I would refer you to the API documentation for the tool. But also, I would say you probably wouldn't use this tool as much for a Web GIS. Maybe if you want to embed it in a website or something like that, the API can really help you answer that question. But maybe a lot of the data you'd use from OpenStreetMap would be incorporated into your Web GIS and not MapRoulette on its own. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you.
And we have another question asking.
Go ahead.
Okay, the question in the chat is, how do you add area that you want people to use as challenging?
Yeah, so I did not go into it as much today, but let me share my screen with you. Basically, let me hide this. If you go to your kind of username and profile picture, and you go to create and manage, you have to be part of a project. So you have to create a project first. I created a test one, and then you create a challenge. Excuse me. And then it'll walk you through the steps to create a MapRoulette challenge through here. And on the GeoJSON portion, you upload the data set that you want to be for users to check and validate. It can also be a Overpass Turbo query, which is a website for extracting data from OpenStreetMap. And like I mentioned earlier, we can do a training on that if people are interested. And it'll pull up, if you use the Overpass Turbo query, you can pull up, all the hospitals in Tanzania or all of the parking lots in Toronto, for example. And you connect that to your project, and it'll break them down into the individual units, and it will distribute those amongst the users of MapRoulette.
Hello.
Hello.
So yeah, this is Remigio from Maputo. I was just I wanted to answer your question about how we see this tool being useful to whatever we are doing. So we were mapping. We did a large mapathon of public transport, in which we mapped over 1,000 bus stops and I think 200 bus routes. But yeah, as always with mapathons, it's a bit confusing and hectic. So we were questioning the quality of all the bus stops. We didn't really keep control of all participants and stuff like that. So I think this tool can be very useful to create like a task that allows us to easily and directly go to each bus stop. And also we had like 8 attributes per bus stop. So we can maybe create a challenge that people are just correcting the names of the bus stops, and others are just correcting the IDs and if it has or doesn't have a shelter and stuff like that. So maybe that's a possible use case of the MapRoulette.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's perfect. That'd be an awesome use case. And if you need any assistance with that, reach out and we're here to help you.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
And Rory, we have a question from Douglas. Does MapRoulette and or OSMCHa detect edits from new OSM editors, for example, the Facebook AI Rapid ID editor?
Yeah, I think that's probably a better use case for OSMCHa. I think I showed you guys that it does have a flag for new mappers. So you can see who's there. I'm not sure. There's another question earlier about if you can filter for that. I don't know, but I'm going to follow up and figure that out for you guys after this. But maybe one thing in the meantime is if you are working with the YouthMappers chapter and you know who are the new students on your team, collect their usernames, and you can enter those usernames into OSMCHa and monitor them that way. So it's not as efficient because it's not using the built-in new mappers flag, but it will be a workaround for now. But I will look into that for you guys, I promise. Cool. Any other questions or any other ideas on how this can be used by your YouthMappers community? Any of these tools? Hopefully this was helpful, and hopefully you guys would like some more training on this in the future. We can go into Overpass Turbo because I kind of realized that that would be an important skill to learn a little bit about, especially for MapRoulette. And also looking at how to create MapRoulette challenges on your own. So if that would be of interest, please let us know in the chat. And Dara, are there any other questions at this point? We're getting pretty close to time.
There are not any other questions in the chat. There are lots of thanks to Rory and great webinar comments. We have a question. Are there any tutorial videos on working with OSMCHa and MapRoulette that you would recommend? I believe some people at HOT did one recently for MapRoulette. I think their topic was MapRoulette and JOSM paint styles. And I can share the link. I'll add that link into this presentation. So once we share the URL for this presentation, it'll be in there. As I mentioned earlier, though, both of them have good wikis about them or information pages. And so there's a lot more detail than I went into today on there that gets into better detail. So I'd recommend checking those out as well. And I'll share all that information and resources in my presentation once those slides are shared. Well, thank you so much, Rory. I think this has been very, very insightful and helpful for all of us. I am about to post in the chat the link to our YouTube channel where we will post these videos for future viewing. And I know some people have dropped in on the call. We're also going to have these calls regularly. Hopefully you're willing to do another training for us, Rory. So if you all will just keep an eye on social media and things like that, and we will keep you all updated, and we'll definitely post whenever we have this video up on YouTube. I'm looking for that channel right now. So if you want to jump in, Rory, in a conclusion, Thank you so much.
Well, yeah, thanks for everyone for joining in. I really appreciated all the questions and comments that I got. It seemed like you guys were engaged and listening, so that's really good to hear. Please, I'm here to be a resource to all the chapters, and I want to learn about the different projects you're working on. So please reach out, please chat, and let's talk all things OpenStreetMap and open mapping in general. And then I would say make sure if you do get that YouTube link, something I always make the mistake of now that I'm doing a lot of Zoom, Skype meetings and Hangouts, is I forget to save the links that people post in there and I can't go back and get them. So copy that link and put it somewhere safe once Dara posts it, just as a public service announcement.
Thank you, Rory. I would say if you just type YouthMappers YouTube on Google, you'll be able to find the channel pretty easily. Next week, stay tuned for another webinar. We'll be doing a meet and greet similar like YouTube Zoom meeting, so that everyone gets to meet people from around the world and we can keep connected over social distancing. So thank you all so much for being participating today, and we look forward to chatting with you soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day or evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye.